Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa aqibatun lil mustaqim. Wa la ruhwana ila ala dalimin. Wa salatu salam ala Rasulina Muhammadin wa ali wa sahbihi ajma'in. Innani utai subhanahu wa ta'ala amtanani wa shukri. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Lil ikhwani wati fi din. Wassalamu ala mani tabahuda lil ikhwani wati fi Afrika, Europa, wa America, wa Caribbean, wa kuli makan. Halim wa salim bikum. Andarama to my fullback community and to my House of brothers and all my African brothers and sisters everywhere you may be. Well, today, my brothers and sisters, I've been quiet, what has happened here in the great country of Morocco. And we've had a serious earthquake, and we're expecting more aftershocks to come. We've lost thousands, and the count is still rising because we are uncovering, under rubble, persons that are now deceased. And so this has been a very trying experience in that, we're Muslims and we have to ask questions sometimes. And I only hope for the best, but I have to ask a question: is those who passed away, were they right with Subhanahu wa Ta'ala? Because if they died in a state they haven't prayed in over a year, or they only pray in Ramadan, or they have nothing to do with Islam at all, I dread their time in the grave. And the ruling, the hadith of Prophet Islam has talked about, when there's calamities like this, that it happens to good Muslims and bad Muslims alike. The good Muslims, the difference is that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, they will examine your niyyah at the time of this death. So if he sends a punishment at that in Arabic to the land that you're at, and the good Muslims who are practicing Muslims, who are actually practicing the faith, pray every single day, make their dhikr Allah and so forth and so on, and they also get trapped up in a flooding or earthquake and they die. The difference between them and those who are not practicing is that their heart will be examined, and of course their deeds will be placed in front of them. So maybe the earthquake came at 10 o'clock at night, but Yahya made his prayer, his last day prayer of the day, at 9 o'clock. You see what I mean? So these type of things we have to understand as far as Islam goes. I want to talk about a subject that I've been talking about, and I told you I always try to give you some bits and pieces, but now this is the culmination. And let me see who's here. Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother Mustafa. Assalamu alaikum, Quad. How you doing, my dear brother Anzarama? Thank you very much, my dear brothers, for showing up today. We got to talk about democracy, brothers and sisters, and I'm going to now give you the proofs. I mean, you hear me talk about this and whatnot. And democracy is not an African creation. And as you heard me talk about before many times, I talked about the Islamic part of it, but now I'm going to get deeper into it, why it's so deadly. All we have to do is look at the world governments today. All the infrastructures that we know are indebted with debt, continuously borrow money and interest accompany that, which is a severe sin in Islam. That for that very reason, all these infrastructures, all the turmoil is under democratic ways and means. And so As a Muslim, we must talk about this because it's our hopes that our leaders will look back to the past and see how our brothers and sisters manage their governments. And they did not use democratic ways and means. It's only after the colonial period that our African leaders begin to adopt this scourge. And you see what has happened to us. So when you look at democratic ways and means, brothers and sisters, you get 10 African leaders, you get 20 African leaders, you bring Asian leaders, nobody will be able to come to a consensus about exactly what it is. And democratic ways and means is European, it's not African, as you heard me say. And subhanahu wa ta'ala is against it. Now, jihad. Jihad in this context we talk about, we're not talking about some of the bare essence of jihad, meaning we're talking about the four elementary elements of jihad, meaning dealing with the nafs, yourself, and dealing with the devil, and then dealing with the hypocrites, and then the disbelievers. Those are basic elements of jihad. But there's defensive jihad, offensive jihad. I've been over this before, these segments. I won't get into the deeper to this because it's not necessarily about jihad. But jihad in the Islamic context is not compatible to that of democratic ways and means. You say, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, in this sense here is because jihad in itself is what? Is to glorify subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make sure that his law and his rule is reign supreme in our hearts, in our actions, and in our government, in our land, and amongst our people, and all our dealings. The subhanahu wa ta'ala's name is remembered, and our Prophet ﷺ and his sunnah is remembered and adhered to and practiced and spread. You cannot do this under democratic ways and means. This is why I said jihad is not compatible, and it's criminal according to the democratic ways and means of most governments today. Many won't say that, but they actually mean that. This is why under democratic governance, they have corrupted the term jihad to make it, again, because they don't speak Arabic at all. And they may have hypocrites who speak Arabic who are being paid by them to also butcher this word, to make it mean that I or any other Muslim has the given right just to walk down the street. We find disbelievers, we can steal from them, we can rob them, we can mistreat them, we can do all these things to them. This is a fallacy. It's not right. And there's no such thing in Islam as a jihadist. That is a Western democratic creation to describe you, me, or any other Muslim who avoids democratic ways and means, who worships subhanahu wa ta'ala, who remembers his name, who wants to see his rule, his Sharia, his Sunnah permeating through the land. Then we're all called, according to democratic ways, jihadists, which is equivalent in some ways to be calling the N-word to a black man. Is that derogatory? So let's get into the notes. I have one more brother here. Do you think that the Libya flood was intentional to stop the flow of weapons to the Sahel? My dear brother, I don't know about that. I don't believe it's because the flow of the weapons is mainly coming from the southern portions of the Sahel. Now there's other reports that European undercover agents and so forth are also supplying weapons to through mediators, other Africans, and then supplying the Africans, who in turn go through the desert and then supply our brothers in the Sahel with weapons. There's a lot of conjecture going on there. I do not know this. I know that some of our ulama are talking about the Sahel, and they were saying, about the calamities. I've been thinking about this too. You know, it first started with Syria. Syria suffered a severe calamity. Okay, severe calamity. Who was next? Turkey was next. Now Morocco was next. Now Libya followed right behind Morocco. All Muslim states. See, and so I don't know if this is the case or not, my dear brother. I cannot say. Okay, there's no jihad fi sabili Allah ta'ala under democratic governments, nor fighting to spread it through Africa, fighting to maintain it, fighting to force Muslims to govern under it. Now, I hear Muslim leaders, I hear others who make reference to spreading democratic ways and means. This is not jihad, brothers and sisters. Let's get this fact straight now. Because jihad, we have it in the Islamic context. This is ours. This has nothing to do with what Washington says, or what the CIA says, or what the Pentagon says, or what the British government says. And fighting to spread it is kufr. Fighting to maintain it is kufr. Fighting to force Muslims to govern under it is kufr. The Muslims who engage in this are engaging in this. There's some scholarly, I'll get into that, talk about this as being kufr akbar, meaning, supreme disbelief that takes you completely out of the fold of Islam. We have scholars who say this. And I will read off a fatwa talking about this issue, because I know this is a hot issue, and there's many who don't like to talk about this issue because they want democratic ways and means. Because why? It's fashionable now. It's vogue. Everybody talks democratic ways and means. But you ask that person, the elementary, what does democratic mean? They can't tell you. They can't even give you the bare essence what demo means. Okay? Cratic. What does it mean? See, they can't even give you this. And so therefore, this is a problem. And so people don't want to talk against it because this is what they want. And we have far too many of our people saying the same thing. This is why we're being punished. I don't believe that these coincidences happen in Syria, Turkey, Morocco, and Libya is something that I believe, and many are kind of thinking this way too, but Allah alam, that perhaps subhanahu wa ta'ala has done something. I have said previously before that subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a message. The first message was what? This wabah, the virus, this COVID-19, which killed millions. And to the Muslims, I was in this regard too. Now the second is these calamities that are taking place in Muslim lands. And all of these lands, this happened, we have the spread of democracy in it. Subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like this governance. It's mentioned many times in the Quran. It's not his governance. It's evil. To strive in jihad, to force devout Muslims to renounce their faith by force, under democratic ways and means, even in Muslim lands as we speak. You heard me talk for weeks about this. We have hired thugs who are disbelievers. Okay, they don't believe in anything except money, getting things, the worldly like, and so forth and so on. Being hired by foreign Tuba embassies to fight devout Muslims like ourselves. And so they won't come out and tell you straight out unless they come face to face to you, but many will come to you like they have done me recently in days to tell me to renounce Islam. And we have a law in Morocco that says the Aqidah Muslim, you cannot go after his faith. But we have Tuba who hire these people to go after your faith to force you to renounce. And they try to force you to use force and physical confrontations to force you out of your faith. I will say this again. Africa is not yours anymore. America and British and French. It is not yours anymore. And the American question, the two-bob question, the two-bob power that has been reigning supreme for these years will be defeated, because our prophet talked about the final war that will come down, and you will be eliminated. So you could kill me, you can kill others. Your time is coming, and you see it now. Your infrastructure and this is why you run into Africa now, because you want our resources. You want it for nothing, so that way you can keep putting money in your pocket. You see what the French have done. The French refused to leave Niger, as though Niger is theirs. The Niger government has the right to tell the Americans and the close up embassies. The Americans do it all the time. The French do it. The Chinese do it. The Russians. Everybody does it. Suddenly, when an African state tells a two-bob nation, "Hey, look, we don't want you here now. We're mad with you. We disagree with you. So please close up your embassy and leave," they say, "No, this is our land. This is ours. We have resources here, and we want it." And so you know what has happened? They've arrested the dignitary from the embassy, and I don't know what else is going to come down from this, but it's sad. So, my brothers and sisters, when we look at the democratic ways and means, it is a serious discussion, very serious discussion. And when we are starting to see, even here in Morocco now, our King Morocco, he is starting to take a stance himself. Like many of the African leaders now, there's, without getting deep into it, he's taking some stance about not receiving aid for certain people. It's very clever how he's done it. He didn't disrespect them, but then he didn't take their aid as well. And so we're starting to see reactions from our African governments. They can't kill all of us. They can kill some of us, but they can't kill all of us. And they can try to continue to put the ones who they wanted to governance. It's not going to work anymore. So to strive in jihad to force devout Muslims to renounce their faith, this is allowed in the democracy-laden African states. This is the jihad. You Muslim who engages this, you're a policeman, or you are an intelligence agent, or whatever the situation, security agent, and you're working under the guise of the Western powers. You've been paid by them, and then you go out and you go after Muslims. This is not jihad. It's criminal, and it's kufr. It's kufr akbar, because you're trying to make a Muslim your brother to renounce his faith, or to change his faith around, or to scare him so he can't come out, which we have everywhere in the Muslim lands now. Devout Muslims, scholars, imams, intellectuals can't leave their houses, because sitting out in front of their houses are thugs being paid by Western powers to do this under democratic ways and means. Striving vis-a-vis democracy to rule over all things. This is not vis-a-vis Allah. Allah's name, Sunnah, Sharia, isn't remembered under democratic ways and means. The Nabi, alayhi salatu wasalam, name, his Sunnah, his Sharia isn't remembered and championed. This is, again, why the Muslims cannot use it, because democratic ways and means does not champion subhanahu wa ta'ala, his Sharia and Sunnah. It does not. You cannot spread something as based in kufr and disbelief and evil and wicked. Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this, and you heard me talk a couple of weeks ago about this topic, about the tahakumu ila ta'ghut, okay? Meaning reaching a decision that's evil. And democratic ways and means is evil. Now, let me preface this, brothers and sisters, by saying this. We have Muslims living everywhere in the world. They're in South America, they're in Central America, they're living in many parts of the world, and they're living under democratic rule. I'm not telling any Muslim to rebel and overthrow. You heard me talk. You can't do that as a Muslim. You heard me talk about it. We have rules governing. You sitting in a foreign land, you must abide by the laws. We have Muslims living pretty good in many Western states. Some live good even in the United States. Some live good probably in Brazil. Under democratic ways means they find safety, they have jobs, they can go about their business, they can even go to the masjid, and they can pray. And they can actively act as a Muslim. We have that in many democratic states, Western states. We have that. I'm talking about the differences on what the Muslims cannot. Yes, you can live under it, but you can't strive for it. You can't go and come here to Morocco and try to force me to live under it or to accept it in lieu of Sharia Allah. You cannot. This is the difference what I'm talking about. I'm trying to get the Muslims and those who do not understand Islam, their Islam very well, that democratic ways and means is not Islamic. And some of the basic elementary differences here is that democratic ways and means does not promote Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's name. It doesn't refer to him and his governance and his rules. To strive in this endeavor means all arbitrations, disputes, litigation, beliefs, its governance is by the man running it. So instead of relying on the Torah, instead of relying on the Quran, okay, or the Abraham or any other of the prophets, we're relying on a man and his ways and means. And man is what? We're human beings. We make errors, and we see this. Laws are changed all which ways. One day you see one law is instituted in the institution. The next time we see another one. Next time we see another law, and it goes back and forth, back and forth. The people rebel. They don't even themselves, all they can say is put signs and say, we want democracy. But when you ask them, what do you mean? The sister says, yes, I want democratic ways of me because I want to remove my hijab. The other sister says, you know what? I want to be up to date without Hezbollah police coming. The other one says, yes, I want to have sexual relations with many women I can without being in trouble. We hear all kinds of things. Others says, I want to smoke and drink. You notice every time that you talk to people about democracy, you hear only evil things that they want accomplished in their land. So this is forbidden for any Muslim to engage in this disbelief. And I challenge anybody who will come forward, any African leader, or if there's flunky scholars who are back in their play, you come forward and you give me the proof on the Quran and the Sunnah, and you give me the Hadith, and you give me the proof from the tafsir of the Quran that says that democratic ways and means is allowed to be governed, that we Muslims can use it. I'm waiting for anybody to come forward. You can spread this tape to your known scholars and ask them. None will say that, except those who are maybe paid off. But they will be lying, and they'll be accused of astabdal, meaning changing, perverting the words of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because he's told us in Surah 4, verse 141, he will not allow the ways of the disbelievers over the believers. And democratic ways and means is that. Nobody can come forward and show me in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet, ﷺ, the democratic ways and means is approved by Allah. It is not. And the Christians, our Christian brothers and our Hebrew brothers, they cannot come forward and show me in the Torah, in the halakha, the Sharia of the Torah, that democratic ways and means it's been sanctioned by the Torah and by Musa ﷺ and Jesus ﷺ. Jesus told us, what did he say? He told us, even in the New Testament, he said, I'm not here to tear down the Torah, I'm here to enforce it. The Americans don't follow that, and most Christians don't follow that either. But Jesus ﷺ said this, I'm not here to tear down the Torah. He says, I'm here to enforce it. That's for our dear Christians who hanker about democratic ways and means. Jesus, ﷺ, we know him as Isa in Arabic, and Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has called him Isa. But we'll use the American version, Jesus. But Jesus said he did not sanction anything except the Torah. So that right there trumps the Christians and the Jews who use this type of governance. It puts the decision of man ahead of Allah and his messenger. And Allah's decisions and that of the messengers have forgotten, thought of as inferior, important, and outdated. Brothers and sisters, you look at this, and it's true. You look at the president of the United States. You look at the president of France. You look at the president of Britain. How many of them use the laws of the prophet? The Constitution is not based upon that. So Africans and African Muslims or Muslims everywhere cannot use this law. And you see our infrastructure. We're being punished by subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our infrastructure is based upon riba, interest. It's based upon that. We're allowed the Tubab to come in to introduce foul things like homosexuality. And we have Muslims in Muslim lands who took this filth and start to spread it for the Tubab. Under democratic ways and means. Under a real Sharia government, the Amir of the Muslims, the Sultan of the Muslims, under his rule, we won't have that. I'm going to tell you that now. And if you want the proof, again, you heard me for weeks talk about this. Look back at our ancestors. You tell me what Usman bin Fodio ruled under. When he went jihad, what did he went under jihad for? How about Omar Dal? What did he use? Huh? Was it democratic ways and means of the Europeans? No. How about Idris al-Loma? When he fought in jihad, what happened? Did he fight to promote European ways and means? No. Samari Turi. I mean, we can go all the way. We go into the Messina, the recent empires of the Fulla empires. The Messina, which is one of the most powerful for almost 400 years, back and forth. We come in and out, in and out. What was this ruled by? Sawadi. You heard me talk about this name, Sawadi. He was one of the kings. What did he? One of the amirs, the sultan. What did he rule under? The Sharia. To the point to where the Europeans, when they called the Messina group, they called it what? Dola Jihad. That's right, brothers and sisters. Our ancestral brothers, okay, the Fulla brothers, our ancestral brothers ruled a strong Islamic state to the point that the Europeans coined it Dola Jihad, meaning in Arabic, meaning a jihad state, meaning they were always constantly in jihad to spread the name of subhanahu wa ta'ala and his governance. Idris al-Loma, you look at the Borno, look at his empire. He fought all the African, the traditional African religions because of what they were doing in his Islamic state. He fought anything that did not coincide with the Sharia Allah. This is our ancestors, brothers and sisters. This is our ancestors, how they ruled. Striving democracy and making it supreme in the land stops all rights of Allah and his messengers' decisions. It promotes ignorance and allows constant change to the laws in order to fight the ruler. Now, this is something, our democratic ways and means, okay, that our Black leaders and our Afro-Arabs and Tuareg leaders govern by. This rule, is treacherous because at any moment they can be overthrown because of it. See, this is why I'm saying everywhere you turn, it's evil. It's evil governance, brothers and sisters. It's evil governance and promotes ignorance. If you look at the Muslim states, in many of the Muslim states today, we have a high illiteracy rate. It should not be, because under the Sharia, if you look at from the past, look at our brothers, we had Arabic. As a matter of fact, all the empires, especially from the 1400s to the 1800s, Arabic was the official language. So that means the people were, even the person, the lowest ranking individual spoke Arabic and wrote Arabic as well. See? So democratic ways and means promotes ignorance. Only some are educated while the others are not. The promotion is shirk in governance known as kufr hakimiyya. You heard me talk about this for weeks. This type of thing is disbelief in government. Kufr hakimiyya means it's not tawheed, meaning it's not the oneness of Allah and his decisions. This is decisions of the world and from a man. So it's kufr hakimiyya. It promotes those to follow orders contrary to Sharia Allah, known as shirk al-ta'a, meaning you, Muslim, you have a tubab who comes to you from the embassy and he tells you, he says, look, I will pay you $100 per week. I want you to go through the area here that I'll give you. I want you to attack the Muslims coming out of the masjid. I want you to follow the Muslims who you follow this one Yahya. He goes to the souk, to the market every Tuesday. I want you to follow him, and then you beat him. I want you to do this. I want you to put devices in the home of Muhammad. All of these type of orders here, and you follow it, it's shirk al ta'ah. You're out. You're gone from Islam. You're finished. This is why I'm saying, brother, this is a serious matter for those Muslims who are lackadaisical in their religion and their ways and means. And we have many who are talking on YouTube and other places are not covering this issue. They stay away from it. Many can't talk. I have to be fair because they'll get in trouble. I understand that. But we have to be very, very frank and honest. And I want you to do your research on this. I'm going to read this, and I'm going to read a fatwa that was issued about democratic ways and means, because I don't want you to think that I'm some crazy fundamentalist who's out to kill everybody, because I've heard this. I had somebody wrote me in YouTube claiming some funny remark he made to me by saying that I was the real Sheikh of the Messina group. I'm living here in Morocco. That goes to show you, I think this is a Tubab who done this, who's portraying himself as Fulani when in fact he's a Tubab, because we know they're to be trolling the net, especially when they see people like me, they don't like us. In democracy, you can train leaders from another democratic state to overthrow it. This is what is also funny about democratic ways and means. The Americans, the Russians, the Americans in particular, and France. Now we understand that there's allegation that Gabon was overthrown by French operatives who trained people from Gabon to overthrow it. We know, and you saw proof for weeks on weeks, that the Congress in the United States chastised the Pentagon and the Defense Department, I think it was, for what? Training Africans to overthrow their governments. So we know this to be. So what kind of democratic law is this? Where you train a person to go into a place, go back to his homeland and kill his kinfolk in order to be in power. But you can do this under the democratic state. To kill officials in it. You can kill officials under this democratic ways and means. You can change change the laws in order to fit the takeover. When you get ready to kill your brother, you can change the laws. To overthrowing the government due to ethnic loyalties. You see a Afro Arab, you don't like him. You say, I don't like his clan. I don't like his loyalties to the Tuareg and to these other groups here, who my ancestors have been at war with for 200 years, and you overthrow him. Now, let's look at this. You have in Niger, which is a hot issue still today, you had the ruler who's Afro-Arab. There was ethnic loyalty tensions in it, because you had one side, you have the Hausa who the generals and the military, they are Hausa brothers. And you had your Fulani who's suffering under the former president. So the affiliations had a lot to do with it as well. See, but the main cause on why they were overthrown is because that over 90% of the wealth was given to the Tubab, and only a small percentage of it filtered to the land. So much so that Niger today is the second poorest country in the world. It depends on other African states for its subsidies. How can it be, brothers and sisters, as you heard me talk for weeks, when they have uranium, they have gold, they have diamonds, each person from Niger should be rich, because they would have so much money they couldn't spend it if they sold this on the open market. But to overthrow these people here, but to put in another evil governance behind it is wrong. You heard me talk about that. I won't get more into that. You heard me talking that for weeks about when you overthrow your brother, it's wrong. So we have to look at it from that standpoint. But if you overthrow him because you want to issue the Sharia Allah, there's other things to that. And that's a deeper discussion talking about this. But in case where you have a ruler who's given, it's open kufr. Now he may be praying. And you heard me say this before, we do not know. what he was doing in his castles. We do not know what he was praying or not. But if you had open Kufa in through the land, okay, and you had at the detriment of the country that's going down to a point where none of us could survive. I told you now, you have people in Niger who are eating out of trash cans. This shouldn't be that way. And they're drinking squalid water because the infrastructure is because there's no money being pumped into the infrastructure. Why? Because the French, the Americans, and others are taking the wealth from the land. This is all because of democratic ways and means, brothers and sisters. That's why I said, I'm to the point, I will say this, the democratic ways and means is a detriment to any black man. It's not for us. It has not been kind to us as well. If you say, yeah, well, look at America. Look at what has happened in America. The black man and black woman are still in a sorry state. Look what's happening in Europe. The black man and the black woman is suffering under democratic states as we speak now. I'm going to read you this part here to give you the basis. So, because I don't want you to think that I'm the only one, because maybe you heard some imam come to tell you that democratic ways and means is okay. But I tell you now, if you listen to this or you listen to speak, you tell him, get a hold of me, and you tell him to give me his proofs from the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay, not from his emotion, not because he's been paid by the government. I want him to give him his proofs that democratic ways and means is approved by Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And I want him to give me a definition of Kufr Hakimiyya. What's the difference between Kufr Hakimiyya and Tawheed Hakimiyya? I want him to explain that, how he can make the differentiation that, and tell me if democratic ways and means is Tawheed Allah, or if it's Kufr Hakimiyya. I want him to come to explain that to me. Now, this is Islam question. This is a very good answer. That's why I picked it out of all, and I got it, and it's translated also in English for you, because if I read in Arabic, many of us don't speak Arabic language. Now, he was prefacing because someone had the same, they start to think about democratic ways and means, they were tired of it. They said, I don't understand why Muslims are promoting it. So he went on and said, the question was asked, the word democracy is derived from Islam. Is this true? And what is the ruling of promoting democracy? Now, this is a Sheikh Islam giving an answer to this. This is a question by one of our brothers or sisters who wrote this. Because now everywhere, everybody talks about democratic. Everything's democratic ways and means. He says, firstly, democracy is not an Arabic word. Rather, it is derived from the Greek. You understand? You see, he's breaking it down. It's derived from the Greek. It didn't arrive from the Ghanaians or the Egyptians or the Tanzanians, okay, or the Zanians from South Africa. No, it's from the Greek. And it is composite of two words, demos, meaning the masses of people. You see, democratic ways means rulings by the mass. The mass mob rules the land and the people. Kratia means rule. So democratic means the masses of people rule, okay? So what is meant the rule of the masses or the rule of the people? Secondly, democracy is a system that is contrary to Islam. This is a Sheikh Islam who's issuing a fatwa, and he's got his proofs at the bottom of the page. This is why I said all those who's listening, especially those in the United States, we have imams who promote democracy. And I know we have brothers who listen to me. I want you to go to your imam who promotes this and tell him to get a hold of me and tell him to give me his proofs to show that democratic ways and means is Islamically sound. It's Tawheed Hakimiyya. I want that proof. Or here in Africa, in the Sahel or any other place, who those people who promote it, let them tell me how and why they're promoting it and why they use it and why they govern under it. Democracy is a system that is contrary to Islam because it gives the power of legislation to the people or to those who represent them, such as members of parliament. Based upon that, in democracy, legislative authority is given to someone other than Allah. It's true. This is why you go in democratic ways and means. You have homosexuality, you have laws promoted under that. This is transverse to the Torah and the Sharia Allah, then the Quran. You see what I mean? Someone other than Allah may be exalted. A man is promoted, he's worshiped, we have to follow him. Rather, it is given to the people and their deputies, and what matters is not their consensus, but the majority. True. Again, the majority of the people rule. They say, I want homosexuality. It's promoted, like in America. They say, I want to be able to have sexual relations with many women. It's legislated. But in the same token, the logic behind this, when you want to marry a second wife so you can have legal sexual relations, it's against the law. This is democratic ways and means. You see this, brothers and sisters? Hear me out again. Let's look at America. I lived there. I know that. And most American men have multi women who they sleep with, and women vice versa. Under democratic ways and means, you can go to the bar and pick up a woman, a strange woman, and have sexual relations with her all weekend long. It's okay. But if I go run and try to marry this girl when I have another wife, this is called bigamy. It's against the law. You will go to jail for it. This is how crazy democratic rules is. Now you get what I'm talking about. Thus, the majority agree upon becomes laws that are binding on the nation, even if it is contrary to common sense. Bigamy. I can go and have 100 women to have sex with in America, or in France, in Britain, and Germany, and other places. No problem. Bring home any woman I want every day if I want, and bring her home and have sexual relations with her. But I cannot marry her if I have another wife. If I have a wife in Los Angeles, I decide I want to marry this girl I met in the ATL in Atlanta, Georgia, I cannot. But I can go to have sex with her. I can leave my wife in Los Angeles and go for the weekend and have sex with her and lie to her and say, look, I'm going to Atlanta, Georgia because there's a conference, but I can go there and have sexual relations on the democratic ways and means with her. But if I want to marry her and give her honor and respect, I cannot under the American laws. It's called bigamy. I get arrested for it and go to jail for it. This is what the fatwa is talking about here. It says that even if it's contrary to common sense, I can go have sex with 100 women. It's okay. Contrary to common sense. But if I want to marry one of these girls when I have a wife in Los Angeles, I cannot. But I can go have sex with her anytime I want. You see, this is what we're talking about. Contrary to common sense, religious teachings, or reason. In these systems, legislation has been promulgated allowing abortion, same-sex marriage, usury, riba. We know this in Islam is riba. The rulings of the Sharia has been abolished. The law of Moses, alayhi gone. The law of Jesus, alayhi gone. The laws of the Torah, gone. The laws of Sharia Allah, gone. The laws of Abraham, gone. All of this because of democratic ways and means. This is what the fatwa is talking about. None of the prophets of old sanctioned any of this madness, same-sex marriage, or this what do you call it? What do you call it? What do they call this? Trans. I don't. What do you call it? You know I don't know what you trans. I forgot what they call it. You know, where a man, he's a man, but he goes and get drugs to act like a woman. This type of thing. All this stuff is sanctioned under democracy, and they're trying to promote that here in Africa as we speak. The rulings of the Sharia has been abolished. Fornication, adultery, drinking alcohol are permitted. This is a grave sin under the Torah, under the Sharia Allah. In fact, this system is at war with Islam and its followers. This is what the fatwa says, and it's true. Look, in democratic ruled states, even Muslim countries, as I speak now, the criminal who is operating is basically free to come in and out. But a person like me, no, I'm followed. And many times I have to almost have fist fights because the Tubab bastards, the kuffar, who say they're Muslims, but they're kuffar, who go to the masjid, Anas bin Malik over there, they bring thugs in there. I'm telling it like it is, to go after me inside the masjid, to follow me outside the masjid. And I told you what happened the other week. They hired this guy. He come to spit. Can you believe this? To spit at me. Coming out of the masjid of Anas bin Malik after Salat al-Fajr. I come out of the door here. I can hear the spit pass by me. If it had landed on me, it'd have been on. I turned, but I said, I'm not going to let Shaitan get me. I turned to let him know I didn't like what he did. If he would have spit on me, I would have went after him. This is what I'm talking about. This is what we say. The democratic ways and means is adverse to Islam because the scholars and so forth are under fire under the democratic system. Because why? The democratic system wants to get you away from the Torah and the Sharia Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala may be exalted and has told us in his book that legislative authority belongs to him alone. The Torah, Musa alayhi, Jesus alayhi said that the governance and law belongs to Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Jehovah, Yahweh, any name you want to call him. It belongs to him, not to a Tubab, not to a black man, not to a Afro-Arab, but to him. And it's the wisest of those who issue rulings and judge. He has forbidden the association of anyone with him in his authority. You can't say you are Muslim and then you have some parts of democratic, allowing homosexuality, drinking and smoking, and then you go and have some parts of the Sharia. This is shirk. This is shirk. This is called shirk. This is called kufr hakamiyah. Disbelief in governance, because you're playing over here at okay, over here some, and then you play over here also. And there's a verse, I went over this before previously and weeks ago about this. You can't do this, brother, sister. You can't go back and forth. You can't add some here and add some here. Now, Subhanahu wa ta'ala may exalt it, says in interpretation of the meaning, the judgment is only with Allah, the Most High. In Surah Ghafur, or which is Surah 40, verse 12, the command or judgment for alone but Allah. He has commanded that you worship none but him. And this is true straight religion for most men will not know. This is the verse in the Quran. The Torah should be followed by the Christians and Jews. The Sharia Allah should be followed by the Muslims. The democratic ways and means should not be followed by nobody. Now, you heard me say earlier, those come late. You live in a democratic society. You must follow laws. This is the fatwa issued by our Prophet Islam. You must. When they conflict with the laws of the Sunnah of our Prophet Islam and the Sharia Allah, his Sharia, then you to migrate to a Muslim state. This is the ruling in that regard. But you live in Los Angeles, and as you heard me say, some Muslims are living well. They have a good job, they have a house, they have a mortgage, and they can go to and fro. No one messes with them under democratic ways and means. And to be fair, I must add this, and this is proven by a survey that was taken. Most Muslims who are having problems in the West go to another Western state because the Muslim states won't accept them, because the Muslim states generally are worse than the Western states. See, so I have to be fair in that. And I talked about that in another issue, but I have to be fair to say that the Muslims who are having a hard time, say in Texas, they want to go to a Muslim state, then most Muslim states won't accept them. They will not, because the Americans are ruling. They'll go in and say, hey, this guy Yahya, oh, he's left Texas. No, you don't let him stay here. So they have to find solace in another democratic state. So we have to be fair. We got to be fair with this. Surah 12, verse 40. Is not Allah the best of judges? The question Subhanahu wa ta'ala asked when these imams and those who promote democracy, when they come forward to you and tell you, you ask them about this verse, Surah 12 and verses 40. Is not Allah best of judges? You ask him. When he starts promoting democratic ways and means, you ask him about that verse. Surah 95, verse 8. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah knows best how long they stayed. With him, the knowledge of the unseen in the heavens and the earth, how clearly he sees and hears everything. They have no wali, helper, disposer of his affairs, protector, etc., other than him. He who makes none to share his decisions and his rule. Brothers and sisters, again, those who rule about democratic ways means you have no help from Subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you're not asking him. You're not asking the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. You're not talking. You're not using his given laws. You're not losing the laws of his prophet, Islam. You're not using that. So you have no protector. This is why our democratic Muslim governance and our rulers are always constantly in trouble, because Subhanahu wa ta'ala has moved his hand from them. He told you in his verse, Surah 95, verse 8, his hand's removed from you. It's removed. This is why you see the Muslim who's ruling under this, they have a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Surah 18, verse 26. Do they seek the judgment of the days of ignorance? Who is better in judgment than Allah for the people who have firm faith? So, brother, sister, you see, I've given you, some proofs. There's a lot of proofs here, again, in this fatwa. Again, the fatwa is telling you the bare essence that that democracy is a system that is contrary to Islam. This is a fatwa issue. So again, for those brothers and sisters who are living in Muslim states, in non-Muslim states who promote democracy, claiming that it's the best governments, you're out, because we have the Nawaqid al-Islam. You have number 3, number 4, and number 9, and maybe even number 10 will disqualify you out in Islam. You got to be careful when you promote democratic ways and means. When you go and try to use your army to force this down another Muslim's throat, you got to be very careful of that. So you have to understand that this is not what Subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. And again, Surah 4, verse 141, Subhanahu wa ta'ala says he will not allow the disbelievers' way to trump over what? The Muslims. See, so all of this, brothers and sisters, I'm giving this. Now, there's gonna be a lot of people backlash. No one's probably gonna view this, maybe some, because they don't want to hear this, because they're settled, they like democracy. And that's your decision. You have to answer for that in the grave. I'm giving you the rulings on this. These are not my rulings. I'm giving you what this ruling is by this popular Sheikh Islam, who's giving you the proofs. This is a sound fatwa. A sound fatwa against democracy. Now, here's another reason why democratic ways and means, the proof he gives here is Surah 5, which you remember Surah Hakimiyya, governance. You heard me talk about this many times. Surah 5, verse 50. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, may be exalted, is the creator of all things. He knows what is good for them and what is in their best interest of rulings. Human beings vary in intellect, attitude, and customs. Human beings vary in intellect, attitude, and customs. This is why man-made laws are not good, because we have one man who may be inherently good, but he gives rules to one thing, but one who's above him is inherently evil. He gives another rulings like homosexuality, whoredom, selling drugs, open debauchery in the streets. You see, this is why democratic ways and means is not right, because the laws are not designed to promote anything. If people say it's freedom, yes. Freedom for what? You have freedom to smoke and drink, yes. Freedom to have homosexuality, yes. To have same-sex marriage, yes. To transgender, I don't know, I forget what they call that now, where me as a man, I can go take some drugs now and become a woman and all this kind of stuff. It promotes all of that. Yes, it's freedom for that. But yet and still, me as a Muslim, if I go and try to marry a second wife, maybe an indigent sister who now came to Islam and she's suffering, and I see that her Islam is good and strong, can I marry her under the democratic ways and means legally? No, I cannot. Islam, I could marry with her. I won't get into the ramifications of this living in the United States in particular. But yet and still, me as a Muslim, I can go out and have 100 women. I can have bed chambers. I can have houses all over with women in it. I can go there this weekend. I go to screw 5 of them there. I can go to another place and have many as I want, but I can't marry another woman. This is the craziness of the democratic ways and means. He says, hence, in the societies that are ruled by people in terms of legislation laws, one sees only corruption Democratic, what do we see in democratic ways and means? We see corruption big time. Big time. In the United States, they talk about they come over to Morocco, they come to Algeria, they come to Ghana, they come to Nigeria, and they come over to talk about their ways and means. And they have people, their cronies, who pay $75,000 for toilet seats. One sees only corruption, immorality, disintegration of social fabric. This is what we see under democratic ways and means. Under the Sharia Allah, we have a Hezbollah police. You hear me talking when it's rightfully done. And we have certain parts of the world who are under the Sharia. Some parts of Indonesia, we have that. We have Brunei is running 100% Sharia. Well, I think Mauritius is also, but I'm not sure, is running under the Sharia Allah. We know Saudi Arabia is running mainly almost 100% Sharia. So, again, brothers and sisters, I'm giving you the facts. This is for you to judge, for you to say this. But if those who challenge me, I want you to bring your facts, not by what President Biden said or President Trump has said, or what some congressman said, or some disbeliever. I don't want to hear it because they're disbelievers. I want you to give me the proof from the Torah, if you're Christian or Hebrew. If you are Muslim, you give me proof from Subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the Quran, Kitabillah, and from the Sunnah of Prophet ﷺ. I want you to give me that proof from there, not from what this man said here, not what this imam said in San Diego, not what some embassy personnel said to you. I want you to give me the proofs from the Torah if you're Christian. If you're Hebrew, you give me from the Torah, or you give me, if you're Muslim, you give it from the Sharia Allah, Kitabillah. I want that. It's noted that in many countries, the system has changed into something that has no reality behind it. How many times we see that, even in Muslim states, they're changing laws back and forth, and the reality behind it is so comical, you don't know what the heck to believe. One day it's okay, next day it's not. And it's mere slogans by which people are deceived. In fact, the real ruler is the head of the state and his helpers, and the people are suppressed and have nothing to say. This is true under democratic ways and means. There's nothing more indicative of that than the fact that when democracy promotes results that do not suit the desires of the rulers, they crush it underfoot. What happens in democratic ways and means, we have, when one is voted out, they go back and say, look what happened in the United States. They had insurrection, January the 6th, I forgot, last year, I think it was, okay, with Trump. Remember that? When they said the election was rigged. We had that in Muslim states. Under democratic ways and means, we have people say no, and then they what? They're overthrown. See, this scholar here who wrote this is right on time. He's talking about modern times. He's not back in the 7th century. He didn't take us back to the 7th century. He's given us modern times. And we see this today. When the desires of those who are ruling, or they didn't win, they overthrow, or they go back to rig the voting so they can come into power. All of this under democratic ways of meaning. I know someone said, well, okay, yeah, I don't understand. How about in Islam? How do we promote somebody? Okay, quickly, brothers and sisters, because this is a long lesson. There's many variables to this. The people do get together, but we don't go voting by this way. What we do is people go and they bring forth people who best will suit the country, who will govern by a law, and who best will protect our resources and our money and our way of life. Then this person is given. We have an assured council. These are wise men, okay? Again, people go to these people, they respect them, they love them, and they know their rulings to be just. These people then turn back around under the sure council, because we have people come forward. Maybe over to the east of the land, they promoted a Muhammad. They say Muhammad would be a good sultan. And maybe to the central and south, maybe they have some Afro-Tuareg. They say, no, we want Ahmed. I think Ahmed is best suited, so we want him. And then say Yahya, he's coming from the western part. Maybe they say we want Yahya as a sultan. The ulama and the assured council, we have this in the Sharia, will look at this, and they will look at each man and question him, and then they make a ruling. They say Ahmed. We want Ahmed to be the new sultan. Now everybody falls in line behind him because when you give your bay'ah, your obedience to him, you're obeying him because he says he's going to obey the laws of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and the laws of our Prophet ﷺ. So you can go shake his hand. This is how we do in the Sharia. This is just a basic part of that. So the causes of election fraud, suppression of freedoms, and silencing the voices of those who speak the truth are well known to everyone. Do not need further proof. Talking about democratic ways and means. Election fraud, we know that. Suppression. What do they do in the United States? They go after black folk, Mexicans, Hispanics, and Aries, right? They used to put police in roadblocks or police with guns. So when the brothers, Mexican brothers, Hispanic brothers, and whatnot, Latino brothers and Asians, they get ready because they know the polls are in this area here, right? So the police, the Tuba police, will go to these areas and block the ways. See, so when you come, yeah, you might have some problems with the law, or you may be shot because this is what they're doing in the United States. So you go to the line, the policeman is there with the gun to stop you from voting. This is what this great imam here is talking about. He says election fraud, suppression of black vote. The votes in the United States has been going on for a long time. This is what he's talking about. This is very clear. Many countries do not need any proof. He doesn't need the proof anymore. It's true. All we have to do is turn on the TV, and when we see a new election, we have the same thing over and over again. Fraud, 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 corruption, corruption, corruption. We see the same thing over and over again. The representative of democracy. This is one of the democratic systems in which people exercise authority through a council of elected representatives of the people. In this system, people retain the right to exercise some aspects of authority by various means and so forth. Right to propose laws. Yes, you have the Democratic will give you, like in your city, you'll be able to make your common laws and so forth, so on. He's talking about that. Undoubtedly, democratic systems are one of the modern forms of shirk. Listen to this, dear Muslims, and also my Hebrew brothers and Christian brothers. He says here, undoubtedly, democratic systems are modern forms of shirk in terms of obedience and submission and legislation. It is disregard to the authority of the Creator. If you are Hebrew and you're Christian, it violates that of Jehovah. It violates Yahweh's, his laws, his rights to govern. And see, this is what he's talking about. Maybe the glorified, exalted, and the absolute right of legislation is gone. Regards as to one who rights have created, but Allah may be excuse me, I'm going too fast. May he be exalted. Okay. You do not worship besides him, only but names which you have forged. This is one of the verses in the Quran where it talks about Subhanahu wa Ta'ala talking about these people who govern and rule by something other than his law. You do not worship besides him, but only names which you have named and forged. Democratic ways means we forge names to it. We give names for it. We tweak it. We promote it. This is what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, he knows the human being very well. You and your fathers, for which Allah has sent down no authority. You have no authority to change the laws the way they do under democratic ways and means. This is why I'm saying, brothers and sisters, it's a serious matter. I know this is mundane to many people. This is for those Muslims who are actually, and those Christians and even Hebrews who want the truth. They want to understand the democratic ways and means. What did the prophets of old have to say about this? What did the Muslim scholars have to say about this? Okay, now the command and judgment is alone for Allah. He has commanded that you worship none but him, monotheism, okay? The Torah promotes this. The same thing. The Torah promotes this, the oneness of Allah, because Subhanahu wa Ta'ala revealed this to Moses, alayhi salatu salam. So there's a lot to this. I won't get more deeper into it for you. I'll give you this part and I'll stop and I'll move on to notes and we'll conclude because I'm long today. Many people think that the word democracy means freedom. This is what the scholar says. But this is incorrect because freedom is one of the byproducts of democracy. What we mean by freedom here is freedom of belief, freedom of decadence, freedom of expression, and those who have many legislative impacts on Muslim societies. The Muslims, generally speaking, can't worship well. And even our Hebrew brothers and sisters, the Orthodox Hebrews, cannot worship very well because they're threatened, even in Israel today, and the United States as well. So it's not only Muslims, Orthodox Jews who take the Torah fundamentally are also under fire. That's right. See, so the freedoms for which countries are calling by means of democratic system is not absolute. It's true. We see whims and desires, vested interests behind the limitations of those freedoms. Black folk, Mexican, Latinos, Asians, and so forth and so on. We see all of these type of things like this. And under the democratic ways and means, we had the Nazi Holocaust of the Jews. I won't get into that because there's a lot of people, this is a sensitive issue, but our scholar here has talking about how democratic ways and means is so vicious, how it can be changed to kill off people, as we see it happen in the United States. In fact, anyone who dies, this Holocaust is treated as a criminal or put in prison, even though it is a historical fact that may be denied. Okay, he's talking about again that there's contention about that, but if you fight against this, you don't have a right to talk about that. But you have a right to go against a black man and talk against him and kill him. That's okay. But if you talk against the Holocaust or some things remnants of it, then it's not okay. This is what we talk about democratic ways and means, why it's not right. So you have the freedom to talk against black folk, but you don't have no freedom to talk against what happened in the Holocaust. See, this now, I'm giving you generalizations. I'm not promoting anything talking about what happened to the Jews because we know what happened, okay? I'm not talking against that because I cannot as a Muslim. But we do have people who make contentions about it. You can't talk against it because you'll be labeled as a criminal and you could be put in prison. But you can go and talk against a black man. You can go on, even on TV, talking about killing him. And under democratic ways and means, it's okay. This is why he said earlier, it doesn't have no reasoning behind it. So I gave you some of those things, brothers and sisters, and I'll be getting ready to close here. The litmus test to determine this is democratic ways and means. Our brothers who decided, I want to go under democratic ways and means, I want to be voted in, I want to go and try the process. Because in their heart, maybe they figured I can help the Muslims out. There's a litmus test that the two governments go when they have a devout Muslim. Devout Muslims can rule under democracy. If he begins to lean more towards the Sharia, democracy rulers are changed in order to, rules are changed in order to depose the Muslim ruler. This happened to President Morsi in Egypt. He's moving towards the Sharia. What happened? They overthrew him. When Hamas was voted in by the Palestinian people, they changed the rules. The Americans and the Israelis deposed Hamas. You see, this is what we're talking about here, brothers and sisters. The consensus among rightful ulama tells us that the governance forbids Sharia Allah. It derails Islamic clothing. Now, in many Muslim, non-Muslim states, Islamic clothing is considered the clothing of terrorists. Those boarding airplanes are subject to vile talk and to be thrown off and arrested. Now we have legislation in France moving the protective outer garments of our sisters. In essence, meaning they're stripping them. They want them to do like the disbelieving woman. They show their breast and their outer genitalia area and their buttocks and so forth and so on. They're encouraging that. But they want our Muslim women to remove their garments, Islamic garments, so when they walk down the street, I can be able to see her breast. I can see the outer shapes of her genitalia area and her buttocks. This is what we're talking about, democratic ways and means. Just voted in France. The term referring to other than Allah and his messenger, worshiping other than Allah. This is again talking about how the democratic ways and means. Again, over and over, I'm giving you this lesson to give you to understand that the rule of the democratic ways and means is evil. It has no sense to it. I give you another example of this, and I will be closing. We have homosexual laws enacted, allowing homosexuality out in the open, like San Francisco, California. You see, I remember going there the first time I went to that city. I'll never forget what I saw. I was down the street and I saw two men who, and here they were groping each other, passionately holding each other. I don't know what the situation was. You see what I mean? But yet and still, if I want to go try to marry another woman, I'll get arrested for that. But homosexuality is allowed. That's what we talked about. And, it's a sad epitaph. This act is considered by many scholars to be blasphemy and disbelief in Islam, to run democratic ways and means. So democracy is based upon falsehood. It's true. How you can have laws that promote such filthiness, same-sex marriages, whorehouses, peep shows. I forgot what the peep shows like. And some of those the pornographic shows and all that. You can go to the show and watch all kinds of stuff. It promotes that. And in disguise for evil rulings, or in Arabic, hagholt. Now, this is what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala calls that, brothers and sisters. Tahakmi ila hagholt. The rulings of evil. This is what we talk about here, brothers and sisters. Democracy is that. I'm giving you everything. You can spread this tape, brothers and sisters. If you like this talk, if you disagree with me, please give me your proofs to it, and so forth and so on. But I'm telling you now, democracy is a detriment. It's killing the world governments everywhere. Everybody is under debt. We have wholesale debauchery in all countries. We have things going on that shouldn't be under democracy. We have African states who have taken loans under democracy, and we can't pay it back because the interest rate is so high, you can never repay it. You take out a loan for 50 million, the interest is 10, 15%, you can never repay it. This is what we're talking about, brothers and sisters. Democracy enforces the unofficial prohibition against remembering Allah. We know that, and his messenger. Even though those governing under it won't admit to this, but yet still allow officials under it to defame Islam. We know that. We see in Denmark where they can burn the Quran. We see this. We see other areas where Muslims can be defamed. We see all of this under democratic ways and means. So democracy in Islam is tahakmi ila taghut. It's evil. This is what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala calls us in the Quran. The decision against Allah's legislation, promoting evil and allowing evil to permeate throughout the land. This is what we mean by the rulings to the evil. Prostitution, homosexuality, same-sex marriage, transgender, this and that, wholesale adultery and whoredom. I can have 100 women, but I can't have 2 wives. I want to legalize. I want to protect one other woman. I want to marry her and protect her. I cannot under democratic ways and means. It's illegal, but I can go and have sex with her and maybe many others. This is what we talk about, all while curbing Allah's governance. I mean, democratic ways and means is out. Okay, brothers, sisters, I don't care any way you look at it. I've given you the proofs today on this. And the Sunnah of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, allowing for legislation which transgresses Allah's limits. Again, homosexuality, nakedness, wholesale whoredom, racism, all legislative under democracy. Under democracy, the Ku Klux Klan, the racist group, the Nazis can kill black folk. They can hunt black folk down. They can do many things to black people. And he's still doing it in the United States. Democracy, the choosing of decision rulings and legislate that goes against the rulings of the prophets. You heard me say that. You heard me say about this before. Alayhi salatu wasalam, Jamian. So this, brothers and sisters, is a serious matter. And, I'm giving you these proofs. There's a lot more here. I'll give you this one here and I will stop. The 99 names of Allah, His Sunnah, and His Sharia. You do not, how can you do that under democracy when democracy doesn't promote Sharia of Jesus, alayhi salatu wasalam, or Moses? Brothers and sisters, that there in itself, I challenge any of my Christian brothers and sisters and Hebrew brothers and sisters, you bring your proofs from the book, not from the President of the United States, not from some legislator who's a man. We're talking about you give the proofs. You claim you a Christian, you claim you Hebrew, you give me the proofs from the Torah. If you say you are Muslim, you give me the proof from the Quran, Kitab Allah, and from the Sunnah of Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. I want that proof that way, not from some verbal emotional, from what Biden said, or what Obama has said, or what Trump has said. I don't want to hear that, or what the president of Germany has said. I want the proofs coming from the scriptures that they say they follow. This is what I'm talking about. I want that proof. So, brothers and sisters, today I've given you a lot here. Let me see. I had other comments. Oh yeah, we have Sister Amina. Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi barakatuh, my dear sister Amina. Abold, thank you, my brothers. Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi barakatuh. Thank you, my dear brother, for showing up today, and all the brothers and sisters who showed up today. And my dear brother Mustafa, thank you, my dear brother, for showing up. And Quad, thank you, my dear brother, for showing up today. I appreciate you very much. And those who will show up in the future. Your brother I have brotherly love for all of us, and for the Muslims, for the Fulani Hausa, and even those who are non-Muslim, who are brothers in humanity and whatnot. But as a Muslim, I have to talk to truth, because in order to save us and whatnot, because I want to enter the grave, I want to be able to say to Subhanahu wa ta'ala that I fought for his governance. I want to say to Subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want the two angels who will come to the grave to visit with me, to ask me questions. They will have my book where I promoted the law of Subhanahu wa ta'ala and the law of our Prophet, and I tried to live under it the best I could. I don't want to be in the grave when the other angel asked me. I won't get into that. I talked about this before. Okay, he's going to smell bad. He's going to get you to go to the fire. He start to ask you questions like, yeah, you promoted what? Democratic ways and means. You didn't talk against it. I don't want that. So even though I'm rejected by the people in this world, I'll get my points, bi'ithnillah, from Subhanahu wa ta'ala, who says he knows my heart, and my heart speaks and my action speaks for that. I'm promoting his law. I'm giving it to the people so they can understand it, if they disagree with me or not. But I'm giving it to them for them to make their choices. See, so I want to to get that point out. And brothers and sisters, and I want to say, Anjarama below Jem, to my brothers and sisters, have a good sleep. This is a proverb, basically in the Fulbe language. This is Fulbe, where we talk about have a good night, rest, sleep. This is respectful to all people, irrespective of who you are. So I give you that because I want you to be well and in your sleep, because we all have to sleep. All humans must sleep, and this is part of the Pulako, and everything like this. Thank you, my dear brother, for showing up. And my dear brothers and sisters, I will stop here now, and I'll have another topic, inshallah ta'ala, but I had to get this part by democratic ways and means, because I've been talking about it for so long. Now I gave you the proofs behind it. So you go and review this. If you like this talk, please subscribe to me and spread my tape, because it's hard hitting, yes, but I give you the proofs. I don't talk with emotion. I give you the proofs from the books. Today I gave you the proof about from the Torah, what Jesus has to say about such a thing. I told you about Moses alayhi salam, his book and so forth. What did his guidance in this? None have promoted democracy. Abraham alayhi salam, he didn't promote democracy. It's an evil ruling. It's not the ruling of Yahweh. It's not the ruling of Jehovah. It's not the ruling of Allah. Any name that you want to call subhanahu wa ta'ala is not the ruling of that. I've given you that proof today. And I challenge those who say I'm wrong, who are Hebrew or Christian, you bring forth your evidence. And those Muslims, you bring forth your evidence. If you disagree with me, you please, I'll entertain anything. You give me your proofs. Give me your proofs, and I will look at those proofs, and I will see what you have what you have uncovered, and so forth and so on. So my brothers and sisters, I was long today, and I thank everyone for showing up, and those that show up in the future, and those who are living where I will say this, and I will close, brothers and sisters. Please, you Muslims, please die as a Muslim, because we've had this serious earthquake here in Morocco. Many didn't think that it would be dead that night. Make your prayers, brothers and sisters. Make your dhikr Allah and try to live the best way you can as a Muslim. None of us are perfect. We all sin. This is why we have prayers, so we can go to subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask for his forgiveness. You make sure that you have made all your prayers, and you have made major sins. You make sure you ask subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness for those sins before some calamity could strike you. Walking down the street to take your child, you get hit by a car. Or you can be in your car and somebody hit you from behind and you haven't prayed in 3 weeks. Or you made major sin, you're drinking and smoking and fornicating. This is what we talk about. So please, brothers and sisters, make sure that you're up to date on your Islamic principles. And if death strikes you that night, you have a better chance before subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you've made your prayers, you've made your evolution, you've made your dhikr Allah, you see, and that's all we can ask of you. So I'll leave you with that. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.